Welcome to another fun-filled hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can find Lakina McGee on the Twitter, X, and Lakina's going in the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite sports opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza, we call it Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given Lakina full power to give you full spill and beer boot.
Season's greetings and toodles.
But before we begin, we must remind you can catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV. That's right, so celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku television, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook like I'm using right now, or your PC like Lakina's using right now, just hit up the Google Play Store and download that Roku TV app and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
Yes, we will. And we will provide, even in this holiday. It's a really giving mood here. Of course, it's almost a holiday, so we'll definitely provide you a lot here on Second City Sports. Of course, we'll preview Bears and Browns. And, of course, NBA Bulls got another big win against Miami last night. They played them again tomorrow night. Also, too, and Kobe White still, making, big, having some big numbers here. And of course, and of course we got Vincent, Sampiro, I think that's how you say his name. He's the co-host of the Lockdown Dodgers. Sampiro, okay. Okay, yeah, I think I had it wrong there. He's from co-host of the Lockdown Dodgers podcast, of course, from the Lockdown family. Of course, he'll talk about the big Shohei contract, which is actually very team-friendly for the Dodgers. And also, too, they just made a big trade and signed getting Tyler Glass now from the Rays. Also, too, of course, our girl Christine Manika from KXRB to preview Week 15 of the NFL and the rest of the our pickups and a whole lot more. But first, Sid, let's go talk some Bears and Browns. Pretty intriguing game, by the way. It'll be on Fox at noon, and you want to say this is a big game for the Bears? Fine. I mean, look, they're a game back of the last wild card spot. Blah blah blah. Okay,
in the hunt.
Oh yeah, in the hunt, I guess, as they say, all the various publications. But so, what do you think? Do you think the Bears have a shot? I know the Browns have had a lot of guys, especially on the defensive side, that are on IR. You're like 13 or 14 guys on IR, but this team has actually done a pretty solid job. Of course, Joe Flacco, who was literally sitting, in his couch, literally just about a month ago, is now made some big numbers, and they signed him for the rest of the season. So yeah, so Sid, what do you think about this game for the Bears?
Do the Bears have a shot? Yes, they do. How will they get it done? This is how they'll get it done. One, you have to run the football with some consistency. They didn't do that to the extent that yours would like to see last week in their victory over the Lions. They have to do that because, one, the Cleveland Browns have a dynamic pass rusher named Myles Garrett. You got to keep him, along with the rest of that Browns defensive line, on his heels. The Bears have to run the ball with some consistency, first of all. Number two, the defense. They have stepped up over the last 7-8 weeks or so. Lakina was, besides pressuring the quarterback, what's the number one objective for the defense besides stopping your opponent. How you do that? One of the ways you do that, create turnovers. My magic number is 2. If the Bears get 2 turnovers or more, I think they'll win this ball game. We'll give you our picks of who wins the next hour. But the Bears have to run the ball with some consistency. They have to create turnovers, and you have to do something on special teams. And Cleveland has some good special teams as well. So I think that the Bears do have a chance in this. Remember, Justin Fields' first start there a couple years ago. Remember, Matt Nagy was the head coach there. He set that young kid up for disaster. I think it's going to be a very different story this time. How it's going to play out, we'll all find out. But I think the Bears have a better chance this time around than a couple years ago. Now that the Bears have been playing well defensively, offensively, they're starting to come around a little bit, even though you still have some kinks here and there. I think this thing is coming together for Chicago.
I mean, look, could they? Yeah, I mean, like, can they stop? At least slow down the Browns' offense. Sure. I mean, you got Amari Cooper. I know they're running back. Their backfield was a little bit banged up. Of course, they've had Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt. Both those guys are questionable. Elijah Moore's been a very solid receiver especially lately with Flacco on under center. I know their old line's have actually been very solid. I think they're like near the bottom when it comes to giving up sacks, which is actually a good thing if you're an old line. Their defense, I know. Look, we know about Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, but they got a lot of like solid young safeties. They got D'Anthony Bell, and of course Greg Newsome Jr., who's a name we've heard the last few years for the Browns. So I think, look, for me, this is very. I don't want to say it's an evenly matched, but yeah, the Bears have a shot. I mean, surely we'll see. Look, I know this. We're back to where Justin Fields kind of got his career kind of like flourish, because Columbus isn't too far away, and I know he wants to redeem himself after his first start. But I think this is definitely going to be one of those games where it could very well be a toss-up game. I think. Do the Bears have a shot? Sure, but look, there's a reason why Cleveland is 8-5 and right there in the hunt for a playoff berth.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the hashtag Football Friday edition. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. We're previewing the Bears Cleveland Browns matchup that will be taking place in the state of Ohio on Sunday. You can watch that game on Fox at 12 noon Central Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern. For those of you in Cleveland, if we have any listeners or viewers in Cleveland watching us, Lakina, you brought up Joe Flacco at the beginning of this, and he's a veteran quarterback. He's seen every defense known to mankind. And the Bears, if they think they're going to fool Mr. Flacco, they're sadly mistaken. As I said before at the top, I'll say it again. If you can force a couple of early turnovers and turn them into points, the Bears will be right there in the ball game. Remember last week, Joe Flacco threw a bad pass with that horrible Jacksonville Jaguars secondary, but the Jaguars failed to turn it into points. And of course, Cleveland got on the roll early, and it was Jacksonville with their injured quarterback Trevor Lawrence trying to play catch up, even though they came up short in pulling out the ball game. For this Bears team, even though we talk about their offense, we talk about Justin Fields, if Cleveland gets out to early 14, 17, nothing lead, this Bears offense is not designed to come back from double digits. Let me say this again. The Bears offense, the way it stands right now, even though it has improved in spots, if they find themselves down 10-0, 10-0, I think is more manageable. If it's 14-0, 17-0 after the end of the first quarter, the beginning of the second quarter, this Bears team is not situated to come back. So the Bears have to keep the Browns off guard defensively by running the ball with some consistency. Justin Fields has to take care of the football, and the defense has to get pressure on Joe Flacco and create 2 turnovers or more. And they do those things, they'll win this ball game.
Another important thing is that keeping Fields upright. Myles Garrett, I know he's been a little bit banged up too with that ankle, but he's been actually still been playing pretty well, even that not 100%. So that's scary a little bit. So I think for me, that O-line for the Bears needs to keep Fields upright. Yes, we know Fields can improvise, but look, that front seven for the Browns is actually one of the best in the league. Look, this is a Jim Schwartz defense. Jim Schwartz defense, they're going to blitz you, and they're going to blitz you hard and often. So that's going to be the thing where, Fields got to figure all that out. And look, we've seen instances, especially in the last week, he still has a habit of holding the ball too long. So I think for me, if he can avoid some sacks, I mean, the Bears have a shot. But if he gives up a couple of sacks and, or gives up, God forbid, a pick six to Garrett, which could very well happen, this could be a long Sunday for the Bears.
Yeah, as you mentioned, when Justin Fields holds the ball too long, this Cleveland Browns defense, as you mentioned, is aggressive. And don't be fooled that they can't try to do the Peanut Tillman punch and try to knock the ball off his hands. Because if they do that and the Browns turn it into points, it's going to be a long day for the Chicago Bears. Now, two players to watch from the Cleveland Browns: Martin Emerson from the defensive backfield. And remember, he had two early picks in that first half in the win last week over Jacksonville. That's the one person you should watch out for in that Cleveland Browns secondary. On the flip side, he's on my fantasy team. I know no one cares, but tight end David Njoku, who's been kind of having an up and down season, but he's picked it up in the last few weeks. He had two touchdowns last week and close to 100 yards receiving off of 6 catches. So looks like he's starting to come on. And when we talk about with the Bears linebackers, they had to keep him in check as well.
And I think that's going to be a key. And look, that's probably going to look Jalen Johnson, Jaquan Brisker. I mean, look, someone's going to have to, guard him. Of course, let's not forget Amari Cooper. I mean, he's a guy we know his days with Dallas and with the Raiders. I mean, he can make some big plays when he needs to, and he's actually been even better since Flacco has been in the lineup. So yeah, I think that's going to be a tough look. Could the Bears try to slow that core down? Sure, of course they can. But I think this will probably be the best offense that they played in the last few weeks. And yeah, is it doable for them to slow it down and perhaps maybe force Flacco to make a couple of big mistakes? Sure, but I think for me, this is going to be interesting to see if you want to say, hey, they're in the hunt, or if you want them to take the next step, well, you're going to begin going against the team who's actually been having very solid lately. So this will be a big test for the Bears, no doubt.
Yeah, and wrapping up our preview here, I want to talk about the running game for the Cleveland Browns. Jerome Ford is one. Kareem Hunt is the backup running back. The Browns have a plethora of running backs, so they can hit you in a different ways with their running styles. We talk about the Bears all season long came with their running backs, where it's been healthy. Deontay Foreman, Khalil Herbert, and Roschon Johnson. I get the feeling that those running backs run with the same style, which is good to an extent, but if you don't have that change of pace back, it's going to be a problem. I want to see how many touches that Roschon Johnson gets, because whenever he's in there, Lakina, he changes the pace for the Chicago Bears as far as the running game is concerned. Of course, also, if you're a running back, you got to learn the protection schemes as well. You got to learn how to block. But I think Cleveland has a little bit more consistency with their run games with Jerome Ford. He's their change of pace back. Kareem Hunt, he was picked up earlier this year due to other various injuries, and he's been doing a fine job as a backup. But Jerome Ford is going to set the tone for their running game for the Browns.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they do, give him the ball more. To kind of keep Fields and the Bears off the field. So I definitely see them doing that. And also, remember, we haven't talked about this, Sid, but the Yannick Ngakoue injury, that ankle injury, of course, he's done for the year. He's on IR. He's actually been pretty good. Montez Sweat, they've been playing off each other very well on that front seven. Not having him there, that could be a big factor for the Bears, especially if for that old line and keep Flacco upright, and maybe he can make some big numbers. That's something to look out for. So I'm not hearing a lot of people talk about that, since the news that broke a couple of days ago. But that could be a big factor for the Bears, especially these next weeks. We talk about they want to make a playoff chase.
Yeah, good call there. So that's something that fans should watch out for there on Sunday. Now, real quick before we break for the bottom of the hour, the wide receivers for the Cleveland Browns. We talk about Amari Cooper, and we also talk about some of the other guys they have on there as well. As my computer ran out, but they have a couple of playmakers on offense as well. Besides Amari Cooper, I brought up David Njoku earlier their tight end. Watch out for him. It's going to be a key for the Bears linebackers with Tremaine Edmonds and Jack Sanborn to try to slow him down. If they could do that, I think they'll limit the big play opportunities for the Cleveland Browns. If they can keep David Njoku in check, I don't think Amari Cooper will have a dominant game as people think, because I think Jalen Johnson is going to shadow him all day. And if that's the case, this is going to be a good test for Jalen Johnson. That's for sure.
That's gonna be more what it is. I mean, look, we know Cooper's been to like 4 or 5 Pro Bowls, so I think that this guy knows, has seen pretty much everything. So Johnson's definitely gonna have his work cut out for him. I will take a really quick break here at the bottom of the hour. We're going to talk after this break. We're going to talk some NBA as the Bulls get a big win in Miami. They play again on tomorrow. Don't ask me how that's. Yeah, but Kobe White is making the case for an All-Star appearance. And of course, the rest of the NBA, some very interesting results, and of course, Draymond and all his weirdness. And we'll even talk some college hoops. A big historic upset for a local team against another local team. We're gonna have that and a whole lot more. Like Keenan McGee, Sydney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. We go to the hardwood coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Very difficult assignments. Here's Alex Caruso, gets the bounce. Welcome back.
Won their second game.
He's had two good shooting games against the Bulls. Here's Caruso.
Oh, bang, bang, bang.
On Martin. Jump past Caruso into Vucevic. Nice maneuvering.
There you go.
Robinson covered him up. So he kicks to DeRozan. Two defenders out on him. He spins a pass to Kobe White. 4-3.
Bang, bang, bang.
You see him working hard against Lowry. Nice pass by Williams. Adebayo, who does so many good things for this team. Good pass. Osumu to Vucevic.
Another good pass.
There's the double. DeRozan to White. Kicks to Dosunmu on the biggest night of his season.
Why not?
A dagger three by Dosunmu.
Wow.
All right.
Man,
Go ahead, Sid.
Go ahead, again.
No, you go.
Yeah. Welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago on this hashtag Football Friday edition. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
Those darn delays. You can find my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X at Keenan McGee, and the IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can always find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comments section. Manika will get them up on the screen for you. And those highlights coming back from the break are courtesy of NBC Sports Chicago.
All right, so with a big win for the Bulls as they beat the Heat 124, well, literally and figuratively 124-116. Kobe White with another big game, 26 points and 11 assists for him. Vooch kicked in with 24 and 12, while DeMar had 23. But the big story was Ayo Dosunmu, who played like you probably say he played like the Illinois Ayo Dosunmu. He had 24 off the bench. That led the way for the Bulls. I think that's the first time I think in a few years that the Bulls have had 4 players score 20+ points. So nice team effort. Win there. Kind of a little bit of kind of a back and forth, but they made just enough shot to win the game. That he has, Kobe White, speaking of, has at least 3 3-pointers in 12 consecutive games. 4 games longer than the next longest such streak in team history. It's also 5 games longer than any other active such streak. Desmond Bain and Steph Curry, they each had 7. So Kobe still making some big records here after a couple of tough losses against the Bucks and of course the division champion Nuggets. But a nice little bounce back win for the Bulls to go to 10-16 as we're recording this.
Yeah, it was a nice bounce back win for the Chicago Bulls last night. As you mentioned, those tough losses to both Denver and Milwaukee. Both of them, they had their chances to win. Well, obviously, Milwaukee was much tougher because you took them into overtime. But last night's game, Lakina, as I told you on this show the last couple of weeks, the Bulls have played better team basketball with Zach LaVine being injured than they have had all season long. And last night, as a team, the Bulls had 32 assists. Again, you mentioned with the 5 players with over 20+ points. Like I said, Ayo Dosunmu had extended playing time because of the early injury to Alex Caruso. Hopefully he's okay for tomorrow. But Dosunmu took advantage of his opportunities. He made the most of it. You mentioned Kobe White. As we were the first ones in the city of Chicago to say it. No one else, to my knowledge anyway, has said this yet. But if Kobe White keeps playing like this, he should be in the All-Star game in February in Indianapolis representing the Bulls. We'll see what happens with that. But you mentioned Vucevic, his game has picked up. Patrick Williams, Lakina, Adam Amin, and Stacey Keaton mentioned something on the broadcast, I believe, last night, and said that they haven't seen Patrick Williams play with this much intensity in a long time. And you saw it again last night. Patrick Williams had a total of 9 points and 2 rebounds, but his energy and his toughness is needed for this team right now, and he's been bringing it. Even before Zach LaVine got hurt, he was starting to turn it around. The stat line didn't show it last night, but you can see his energy has picked up. Torrey Craig coming off the bench, he did it once again last night. And DeMar DeRozan, I don't know about you, Lakina, but he's starting to feel comfortable in that number 1 role without Zach LaVine.
Yeah,
and he hit not 1 but 2 3-point shots in the first quarter last night. How ironic is that?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's like a little bit. You kind of feel like he's a little more comfortable playing this type of style of offense with Zach. Now, with Zach being hurt and everything is kind of like sort of coming up here for the Bulls. I mean, they've been playing a little bit better, a lot better. They've been playing with a little more intensity. They're playing with a little bit more urgency. Like I said, I know they had a couple of tough losses. They probably could have won at least one, maybe not both of them, but they probably definitely could have won one of those 2 games, especially with Nikola Jokic being led sent to the showers. But we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But for me, I think this Bulls team is kind of showing you why this is sort of the team that we probably should have seen this whole season. Because you're seeing, P. Will wants to get that big contract, so he's playing better. Ayo wants to do the whole prove it thing with that new contract he got. So I think for me, I think this sort of like they're finally playing with this as an urgency. They probably should have been playing since the beginning of the season.
Yes, and I'm sure head coach Billy Donovan is using this tactic in the locker room. No one's believing in us. Everybody's counting us out. Yes, you can use that tactic that could only go so far, but when you come up against better teams, that's not going to be enough. And the Bulls have a tough schedule coming up. I know they play Philadelphia in a couple of days after they finish the 2-game series on the road at the Miami tomorrow night, Saturday, for those listening back on the replay at War Media Podcast. But after Miami tomorrow night, you play Philadelphia on Monday, and then it gets tougher as the calendar year closes out. So Zach LaVine, is he important? Is he important to this Bulls team? Yes, because of his talent. But the way this Bulls team is playing right now, it is very good. He's starting to see the other players shine. But when it comes to when you face better teams, Lakina, you're going to need somebody like Zach LaVine to push you through. Of course, he's still going to be out a few more weeks with that foot injury. But when it comes to better teams like Philadelphia, Boston, I believe they play you have the schedule in front of you. When they play some of these better teams, you're going to need that. You're going to need that other knockout punch scorer to help you out at times. The way DeMar DeRozan is playing right now is great. The way Vucevic is playing right now, great. The way Kobe White is playing, great. You know how streaky he is as not just as a shooter, but as a scorer. When he goes down, who else is going to pick up his slack? The way they're playing right now as a team is beautiful. But when they come up against those big teams, you're going to need someone to go toe-to-toe with their superstar player. And the Bulls right now, because of Zach LaVine's absence, just doesn't have that. Even though you should appreciate what they've been doing right now, playing team basketball and the other players around and getting more shine.
Well, I think this shows to those teams, and hopefully, I'm sure Miami probably learned their lesson. I think they will learn a couple of months ago, but especially now that this the Bulls are no longer in easy because you heard all the rumors and all the outside noise, and I'm sure Donovan has probably told his guys to kind of ignore all that. But then you got these other teams. I'm sure Miami. They learn. I'm sure Philadelphia going to learn in a couple of days that this is not going to be an easy win for the Bulls. They're going to make you earn every single bit of it. You saw what happened those last couple of nights back. So let me just see if they can keep this up now. As far as the rest of the schedule, the schedule for the NBA is concerned, we'll start with in Los Angeles. The Clippers got a nice win against the Warriors. We'll talk about the Warriors and all their issues in a second. 121-113 last night. It looks like Harden's still trying to, kind of inching closer, becoming the Harden that we know. 26 points, 15 assists for him, also 4 blocks. So a really solid showing. They're starting to get better. They're 14-10 I'm talking about the Clippers, and they're definitely kind of like making a little bit of a move here.
I know that the Clippers were without Paul George last night, and so they had to pick up the slack. Kawhi Leonard had a nice game as well. And James Harden, congratulations to him for scoring 25,000 career points. He achieved that feat last night. I'll start this a little bit on the other side regarding the Golden State Warriors. We'll get to Draymond in a bit, but we talked about this on the show before the season started in our previous show. Klay Thompson, he had a horrible shooting series last year against the Lakers in the playoffs. That was one of the reasons why the Warriors got eliminated. But this year, he's still trying to get his legs back. His shot is falling off, and there's been talk around the league. And I was watching the Inside the NBA postgame show from the other night when they lost to Phoenix on TNT. It was Jamal Crawford, Grant Hill, and Vince Carter. Nice to see him back on television. And they were talking about should the Warriors bring Klay Thompson off the bench. I said, especially now with Draymond Green's suspension, I don't think that'll be exactly a bad idea. Now, Chris Paul has worked out for them great coming off the bench. I know him and Steph Curry has seen time together on the floor at the same time, but I'm not sure that Steve Kerr will pull that trigger, but he's going to have to do something else as Draymond Green is going to be out, and definitely due to that suspension. I know we'll get to his part in a minute, but I don't think it would be such a bad idea to bring Klay Thompson off the bench to get some to get his confidence back.
Yeah, I think it might help him because he is definitely in a little bit of a shooting stuff right now. Talking about Thompson, and I don't know, Wiggins hasn't been playing very well either. So I think this might be one of those things where you wonder like, okay, is it the Draymond stuff aside? I think you wonder, is it age for some of these guys? I mean, you saw it's definitely one of those things where you saw like guys have been struggling. I know that some of the guys are supporting guys. I know, like I said, Wiggins has been struggling lately. It's just like it's unfortunate that this is sort of like the thing where maybe the mix isn't working, or maybe it's the age of Klay and Steph. They're all getting up there now in their 30s. So I'm wondering, is all that kind of playing a bit of a factor? And look, Jonathan Kuminga has been kind of struggling a bit. Calvin Looney's been struggling too. So it could be a whole mixture of things. So I think for me, Yeah. I mean, let's wait till like if by January they're still kind of struggling and meandering. I think I'm not going to say that the Warriors are probably done for, but it's rough out there in the Bay Area so far.
It is, you mentioned, with all the injuries and all the basketball that this group has played over the last few years, minus the COVID year and minus 2021 when they lost to Memphis in the play-in tournament, regarding Steph Curry and Klay Thompson playing, and Draymond Green too, playing all those games from preseason and deep into June at the latest, and it takes a toll on you. Now, just to give you a note that Klay Thompson did score 30 points last night. He did have one of his best games of this young season so far. But the question is, can he continue that momentum? If he can, obviously the Warriors, I think, will be okay until Draymond Green returns. But Klay Thompson continues to struggle. It's going to be a long struggle for Golden State. If you're going to depend on Steph Curry to bail you out, that's going to work in the short term, but in the long term, it's going to be disastrous.
The Sacramento got a nice win against OKC, 128-123. De'Aaron Fox had 41 points, which is a career high for him. Denver with a nice bounce back win against Brooklyn. After Jokic, after being sent packing for something stupid here in Chicago, he bounced back with another near triple double, 26 points there. Boston beat Cleveland 116-107. Now Brooklyn actually, oddly enough, they actually, prior to that night, they actually upset the Suns 116-112. And I know that the Suns don't have neither. I know Beal is out. We know Beal's out. I know Durant is just coming back. He had 27, but unfortunately, to the Nets' credit, they were able to their young guns were able to come in and upset Phoenix.
Yeah, the Lakina's reviewing games from Wednesday now, but you talk about the Phoenix Suns the night before. I know we'll get to in a second when they beat Golden State. We talk about health about this Phoenix Suns team. That's going to be the question all year long. When we will see Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant on the floor at the same time. That was the plan going into the year, of course. Bradley Beal has missed most of the time so far this year, but whenever he gets healthy, providing the other two, Booker and Durant, stay healthy, this Phoenix Suns team is dangerous. And don't forget about Yusef Nurkic, the one that got hit in the face the other night by Draymond Green. I told you before the season started, he provides that defensive energy inside that the Suns team is needing. Who's going to get the rebounds? Nurkic has stepped up to the challenge, and he balanced out that lineup. Don't forget about Eric Gordon, the veteran. He has to play. He's been playing a little bit more than originally thought because of the injuries to Bradley Beal. And, of course, Grayson Allen, even though he's a nutcase, he brings that energy defensively off the bench for Phoenix, and that's another key element as well.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Phoenix, on Tuesday they did beat the Warriors, so that was a nice win for them. But also, too, they lost a tough one to Brooklyn. The Lakers, I know they had a tough go at it on Tuesday, but they did get a nice bounce back win. And it's interesting because I know that some people say, oh, they're gonna have banners up and such. I mean, but look, let them have their little fun. If they wanna, celebrate the in-season tournament, whatever, go ahead. But they beat San Antonio 122-119. AD had 37 points leading the way there. Milwaukee beat Indy. Now I want to talk about this game for a second. Giannis had a career high 64, but apparently I guess they couldn't find the game ball or something happened. And I guess someone from the Pacers took the game ball and I guess, Giannis wasn't very happy about that. And I guess they gave him a ball, but I don't think it was the game ball. That whole thing just seemed very petty and silly. I know some people said that was good for the NBA because everyone's so nice, but it just seemed like very grade school stuff. It was just seriously, the game ball. My God.
Yeah, after Giannis eclipsed the previous franchise record of 58 points, it was 57 set by Michael Redd many years ago. Of course, Giannis was taken out of the game, but once Indiana made that run and got it down to 10, I think it was a little bit over 90 seconds left. Of course, Adrian Griffin, the new Bucks head coach, put all the starters back in. Of course, Giannis added some points to that record. The Pacers took exception to that. And, of course, they said after the game, one of our rookies scored his first NBA point, so that's why we took the ball. Of course, Giannis chased him down in the locker room. I think one of the assistants to the GM of the Pacers got elbowed real bad and had one of his ribs cracked, which was terrible. But it was all brouhaha in the hallway after the game. And like you said, it was just petty, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it was just very silly, and I know that people say, "Well, is this good for the NBA?" But yeah, I mean, come on, folks, really. So, yeah, yeah, that whole thing was just silly and also petty. Real quick, through these Monday games, and like I said, Dallas beat Memphis. Of course, we talked about Chicago losing to the Bucks. Speaking of, in overtime, OKC beat Utah. And the Knicks had a pretty up and down week. They lost their last game, but they did beat the Raptors on Monday. 146 101, 47 points. The Sixers beat beat the Wizards by, and yeah, if you took the over on that game, yeah, that was a pretty bad. And Detroit, I mean, you feel bad for the folks in Detroit. I mean, what, 21 in a row that they've now lost, and they lost against the Sixers a couple of nights ago. That's 22 in a row for them, and I think, yeah, that's the last time that. And I know that the Spurs, yeah, I mean, just a very rough showing for those younger teams. So, but yeah, I mean, it was just like you feel for the people in Detroit, because that was just you thought that maybe that they were going to take some stuff this year with with Kate Cunningham and some of the other great young players that got on their team, but so far it has not worked out.
Yeah, Monty Williams, I know he knew what he signed up for, but I'm sure he didn't think it was going to get this bad. I know he took the bag to go coach this young Pistons team, but you mentioned the talent that they have with Jalen Ivey and Cade Cunningham. It just hasn't happened yet. And when it's going to happen? Hopefully sooner rather than later, within the next couple years, because if this continues, it's really going to get bad. And, those fans in Detroit have been patient for a long time, but just like those Philadelphia 76ers fans in the last decade with the trust the whole process nonsense, at some point the meter is just going to go off, and it's not going to be pretty.
We'll see if they can kind of get it together here as we go through the schedule for this weekend in the NBA. Of course, tonight, Friday, you got the Pelicans against the Hornets. Detroit, they'll try to snap that bad win streak. I'm sure Philly will be waiting for them. They play them again. I'm not repeating myself. This is back to back. Don't ask. The Pacers and the Wizards at 6. Then you got the Magic and the Celtics. Atlanta and Toronto. The first game of the ESPN doubleheader. Once again, you've got these Spurs once again hosting the Lakers. Look, I don't ask me why I'm not repeating myself, because these two teams did play a couple of nights ago.
Hopefully LeBron James returns tonight.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably will. I know he took a rest day for that game. Yeah, they really didn't need him. Houston and Memphis. And the second game of that ESPN Friday doubleheader, you got the Knicks and the Suns. We'll see if the Suns can bounce back tonight.
Tomorrow, Saturday, your schedule looks like this. The Bulls will play the Miami Heat again. Like Lakina, don't ask us why the NBA schedule it this way. Your other matchups is the Pistons will visit Milwaukee to take on the Bucks. 76ers will play the Charlotte Hornets. Atlanta will visit Cleveland. That's the first game of the NBA TV doubleheader for Saturday night. The Pacers will face the much improved Minnesota Timberwolves. The Brooklyn Nets will travel to the Bay Area to take on Golden State. The OKC Thunder will take on the Denver Nuggets. That should be a high-scoring affair there. Dallas will travel to Portland to take on the struggling Trail Blazers. And the Saturday nightcap of the NBA TV doubleheader, we'll see the Utah Jazz take on the Sacramento Kings.
And Sunday, to wrap up the weekend in the NBA, you got Orlando and Boston at 2. Then you got the Pelicans and the Spurs at 2:30. Then the Rockets and the Bucks at 6. You got the Suns hosting the Wizards. And you got the Warriors and the Trailblazers at 8 o'clock on Sunday night.
And that's your schedule for the NBA this weekend. As you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the hashtag Football Friday edition. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. Before you get to your college basketball nuggets, Lakina, I want to ask you about Draymond Green. He punched Yusuf Nurkic in the face from the Phoenix Suns on Tuesday in the loss to the Suns. The league has suspended Draymond Green indefinitely. I know Draymond Green did apologize to Nurkic in the press conference following the loss on Tuesday night. What did you think about this, Lakina? Of course, Draymond Green's been known for this throughout his career. He tried to sell the call. I don't think he meant to punch Nurkic in the face, but he meant to intimidate him, and it went way too far.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's getting kind of old. I'm kind of like what the guys on the Inside the NBA said. You mentioned earlier, of course, the guys were honoring Ernie Johnson for going into the sports broadcasting Hall of Fame. So that's why you had the guys that did mention on there. And I think it was Jamal Crawford, I think, who said it best, where I think, look, he's getting a little too old to be acting this way. He's 34. I know that he lost one of his, college teammates. We talked about him, Adrian Payne, a few months back. I know that they had lost touch over the years, which, look, you get married, you got to get kids, things happen. But I mean, there's got to be something. I know that one of the conditions is that he has to go to counseling and talk to a therapist or what have you. That's one of the conditions of that indefinite suspension. So I mean, you wonder that can he get it together? Can he finally be that sort of like that mature guy that we saw? I know Rasheed Wallace said some stuff on his podcast where that's from the like Malice in the Palace from 04, but I'm kind of like, it's a little bit deeper than that. But yeah, I think there's definitely a little bit more mental for Draymond than anything else. And all that aside.
Real quick, I was listening to the NBA Ringer podcast this morning with Logan Murdoch and former NBA player Raja Bell. And both of them, Raja Bell brought up this point. How much resentment, I'm just paraphrasing here, how much resentment do the players on the Warriors have for Draymond Green right now? And when he comes back, will his teammates open up their arms to him, or will there be some resentment left over? We all talked about the situation last year before the season started, him punching Jordan Poole, and you saw it had a major effect on their season, even though they did win that first round playoff series against Sacramento last year. You saw in the regular season last year that had an effect, and they couldn't get it together consistently enough all year long. This year is due to not just him, but in other injuries as well. Do you think his teammates will be as welcoming as we think they will be whenever he returns? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's really going to depend on what Steph does. I think everyone's going to follow Steph's lead, and it's going to be how he reacts. I mean, you kind of welcomed him. Look, we don't know what he says to Draymond behind closed doors. I'm sure he and Coach Kerr and Clay probably all might kind of give him a what for behind the scenes. We'll probably never know what's said unless someone says it. So for me, I just think that you know what I mean. Like I said, it'll just depend on what Steph does. I think they'll just follow his lead. I think.
Okay, and your college basketball nugget.
You know what? Let's take a break first because I don't have to rush through it because we got Vincent, coming up in a few minutes. So let's take a really quick break. We'll talk about college hoops, and Sid's gonna start watching college hoops whether he likes it or not. That way I don't have to be talking about it.
Hey, I love college basketball. Don't do that now.
Sure. Okay. We got Vincent Sampiro from Sampiro. I probably don't get his name right. From Locked On Dodgers. Dodgers are making some big moves, and also too other MLB happenings going on. Of course, our girl KXRB's Christine Manika on deck. Coming up this hour as well. Coming up, Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. A busy hour 2 coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so.
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can find my Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, at Keena Score again, IG.
We have less than an hour left for this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. If you have any questions or comments, especially for our next guest coming up in a few minutes, Mr. Vincent Sampiro from Locked on Dodgers podcast, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago live right now on Roku TV.
All right, Sid. Yeah, we gotta do this rapid fire because we got Vincent coming on in a couple of minutes. Some big college hoops news, and I think if you, in case you missed it a couple of days ago, Chicago State, the Cougars, they're actually going to be going to the Northeast Conference next year. They finally don't have to go all the way to the West Coast to play some of their games after this year. I know that the folks are going to be very happy about that. But they beat Northwestern 75-73. They were 0-15 all time against Northwestern before this. And this is actually a really big showing for that program. And it's definitely one of those like big step ups. And look, you look at Northwestern especially, because coming off beating Purdue. This is the kind of loss, and I've heard various people say this, but this is the kind of loss that can kind of get you come back to bite you in the butt in March. But at the same time, though, a great showing for Gerard Gillen and Gillen, I should say, and the rest of the Cougars program. A big win for them.
Yes, congratulations to that college basketball team that resides at 95th and Keene Drive on the south side there. It was a great effort for those young men, and they beat one of the top teams in the Big Ten, one of the toughest conferences in the country in terms of college basketball. So congratulations to them. On the flip side, Lakina, you are correct. This loss could come back to bite Chris Collins' crew in the butt in terms of seeding in the NCAA tournament if they perhaps are able to make it, and what happens in the Big Ten tournament. But we talked about this Northwestern team last year, Lakina. It was a great story for them going back to the NCAA tournament. Boo Buie, one of their big stars, he's returned back to the teams for another run this year. We all know that they're offensively challenged at times. I'm talking about Northwestern, but they can score the ball in spurts as well. And like you said, looking after a big win over Purdue, they're projected as one of the top teams in the country with Zach Edey. This was a classic letdown, and it did show it, especially in the last few minutes of that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those, like you said, this is definitely one of those like glaring like games in the resume. Yeah, this kind of cancels out. Unfortunately, this kind of cancels out that Purdue win.
Mm-hmm.
So this win, for this loss, I should say, for Northwestern. I mean, it's just like, but again, you know what? It's yeah, they end up somehow win the Big Ten tournament. You kind of they'll forget about it, but at the same time, though, like this is like red light for the committee. So but they were the only ones, to be fair, that got upset. I mean, UNLV beat Creighton in Vegas. Yeah, I mean, though there were some other upsets as well. So yeah, I mean, they weren't the only ones talking about Northwestern, but this was one of those upsets where UNLV is actually playing very well this year. I mean, that Mountain West Conference looks like they could get 4 or 5 teams in this year. But this one here, I mean, look, we know Chicago State, they're trying to get a football team going. They actually got folks there in charge. So like they're going to be invested in some, getting some good competitive sports teams. They're going to a very solid conference in the Northeast. That way they don't have to travel a lot. So yeah, I mean, this could be one of those things that definitely help that program build up.
Yeah, with the victories like this over Northwestern, like you say, it could help with recruitment down the road. I believe former Chicago Bear Chris Zorich is the AD over there now. If you correct me if I'm wrong, but he's over there heading that athletic department. And like you said, if they momentum going up in the right direction keeps happening like this, like so you'll get some decent athletes to come to your school, and not just compete in basketball and football as well whenever they get that program going. So if they continue on this momentum swing, the arrow is just will be pointing up from here.
Yeah, and I forgot who the AD is. I don't. It's yeah. I mean, yeah. I think they just changed ADs, so
Okay.
I think that's but even still, I mean, I know that they've got people there that that they are kind of invested in getting like I said, they're going to be, hopefully they'll put a football team in a couple of years, and other stuff's happening as well. They're actually going to put some money into invest. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens here with that, with the athletic program, and how they can build on something like this. And going into this weekend, real quick, before I know our buddy Vince is probably waiting in the wings here.
Mm-hmm.
Going into tomorrow, you got LSU in Texas. That'll be on ESPN2 at 11 a.m. On the WGN network and the CW network. Your local affiliate is Miami hosts LaSalle, defying Tim Leggers as I call them. Of course, he's was a big recruit over there in Philly with LaSalle. Kansas goes against Indiana on CBS. That's at 11:30.
I'll be watching that one.
Yeah, that should be a fun one. I know they've had their struggles this year. I'm talking about Indiana, but Kansas, Hunter Dickinson, of course, going back to the Big Ten. That should be no, I think he's suspended. So yeah, he might be still missing that suspension. Michigan State, who has been struggling, they host Baylor, who's been playing very well this year. That'll be on the Big Fox Network. Let's see what else is big. No, UIC hosts Western Michigan. Houston meets Texas A&M. That should be a fun one on ESPN2. The Battle of the Tigers, you got Clemson, number 13 Clemson, and I think they only have one loss this year. I'm talking about Clemson. They face the Fighting Penny Hardaways, the Memphis Tigers at 2 o'clock.
Hey!
That should be a fun one. UCLA and Ohio State, that'll be at 2 o'clock. That should be a fun matchup between two historic programs. Let's see. Florida Atlantic, they're still unbeaten. They face St. Bonaventure on ESPNU. Chicago State will try to keep that letdown, keep from that letdown as they face Valpo at 3 o'clock. Let's see. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple other highlight games of note. You got Arizona Purdue at 3:30 tomorrow on Peacock. Too bad this game is not on the big NBC network, but that was the deal that they signed with them. North Carolina, Kentucky in the CBS Sports Classic. That's at 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on CBS. And the Fox Saturday night game will feature Alabama visiting number 8 Creighton.
Also, to DePaul host Northwestern. I'm sure Northwestern will not be in a very good mood after losing Chicago State at home. So safe to say that the Chris Collins and his guys will be ready to kind of redeem themselves with that after that tough loss there. Now, real quick, for Sunday, you got Illinois meeting Colgate. That's at noon on the Big Ten Network. Other games of note here: Illinois State and North Dakota State. We got Colorado State. They're undefeated. Well, they only got one loss. They face Colorado Pueblo. And that's it. Yeah, Washington will try to get out of that letdown as they face Seattle on the road. They're kind of going across town. WESPN Plus and Nevada, who's been playing very well too. They face Hawaii.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the Friday edition. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. And right now we're going to talk a lot of Los Angeles Dodgers baseball and the biggest signing in the offseason in Major League Baseball as the Dodgers have reached a contract with free agent in the biggest star of the sport, Mr. Shohei Ohtani. And to help us discuss that and a whole lot more within the Dodgers and plus a little bit of MLB talk as well. He's the co-host on the Locked On Dodgers podcast. You can find Locked On Dodgers wherever you get your podcast, or you can watch it right here on YouTube. And one of the co-hosts of that podcast is Mr. Vincent Sampiro. Vince, welcome to the show. How are you, my man?
Hey, appreciate you guys for having me. I'm good, man. Ohtani's a Dodger, so no complaints over here.
Yes, we're doing just fine. Before we get started, I was listening to your podcast, the latest episode, or earlier this morning, and you were there in the press conference. I know there was a whole bunch of foreign media members, especially from Japan. Before we get into the actual signing and the language in the contract, what was the atmosphere like?
I mean, it was, I've been to a lot of events at Dodger Stadium. And for a press conference or for media, this was, up there in terms of the number of people. And, it's kind of different because, the difference between the Japanese media, they're really just covering Ohtani, where, some of the media here are covering the Dodgers and then Ohtani is part of that. So it's, revered, like they revere him. He's a hero out there. And, I've kind of seen it through the World Baseball Classic, through MLB All-Star, and now with the Dodgers, it's, a different respect that they have for him. And it was cool to see. And just starting the rodeo of what Ohtani will be in LA. Well, the real LA now.
Yeah, well, that's funny you said that, the real LA, because we've heard some of the other teams that were in contention. Atlanta was a contention, supposedly. Toronto, I think that's one of the favorites. The Cubs here in Chicago as well. It was basically Dodgers or bust. So, how do you think that Ohtani got to this decision? Was it really because it's a familiar, just going to the more historical franchises as opposed to the Angels the last few years?
Yeah, it felt like, winning was obviously a priority for him. He spent 6 years with the Angels, didn't make the playoffs, and, the Dodgers have made the playoffs 11 years in a row. I feel like that was the huge part of it. And he kind of mentioned that was one of the reasons. But it was interesting because, the reports were, he didn't talk about his discussions or negotiations with other teams, but all the reports were that he basically offered kind of the same deal he gave the Dodgers to anybody else. His agent even confirmed that they went back to the Angels after the Dodgers offer and, kind of gave them last chance to at least match it or have another conversation. And the Angels didn't want to do that. So, yeah, I think it came down to the winning. It came down to the Dodgers. And honestly, I feel like he would have signed with the Dodgers or maybe another National League team back in 2017 had the DH been in place already. I feel like the Angels were kind of just beneficiaries of the DH not being in both leagues at the time.
The language in Shohei Ohtani's contract and the deferred money has people talking about it over these last few days. Of course, he has a lot of deferred money coming to him after that 10-year contract that's up. But I want to get into the other language part in his contract. Of course, the early reports were if one of these two guys, GM Andrew Freeman or the owner, if one of them is let go or decides to step down, he will become a free agent at the end of the season. Talk to us about that. How did that come about?
Yeah, so he won't become a free agent, but he has the ability to opt out if he wanted to. Yeah, so I mean, he kind of said it was a safety net of sorts. I would imagine being with a team like the Angels, or being on any team that maybe didn't make playoffs or didn't kind of approach it the way you want to build a team. Kind of gives them some safety there. If, hey, the guys that signed me, kind of like college recruits when they go somewhere and the head coach that recruited them leaves. Now with transfer portal, it's easy for them to leave too. And I feel like that's kind of what it was. These are the guys that brought me in. These are the guys that, promised me everything or gave me everything that I wanted. And if these guys aren't there anymore, I want to be able to decide for myself, do I still want to be there after?
Yeah, very definitely a very team friendly deal, I guess. I know the $700 million number, I think, is throwing a lot of folks off guard, but the fact that the language of it, he can opt out after a few years. He can, the money can be deferred at different. It's kind of like when you're paying like a car payment, I guess. So that's actually pretty cool to give the Dodgers that kind of flexibility. And speaking of, Shohei is not the only big free agent sign for the Dodgers. I mean, they traded for Tyler Glass, now of course a veteran pitcher from the Rays, and not only that, they gave him a 5-year, $135 million contract extension. So yeah, this definitely beefs up that starting lineup, which they desperately need. And you saw how glaring how they were missing that in the last couple of seasons in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean they came into this offseason. Ohtani was obviously the big fish, but the fact that he couldn't pitch next year was tough on them because they did need pitchers. Clayton Kershaw, if he does come back, wouldn't be until the second half of the season. Walker Buehler's coming off Tommy John surgery, tried to come back late last year, didn't make it. Then they got a few young guys, Bobby Miller, Emmett Sheehan, Ryan Pepio was going to be one of those guys. Now he's heading to the Rays, so they still have a little some work to do this offseason. They still, I think, need one more pitcher, but getting Glass now, adds that ace. He's had issues with injuries, Tommy John in the past as well. But if he can be healthy, he's got top tier stuff, and it gives you somebody that can start game one of a playoff series.
We're hanging out with our guy Vincent Sampiro from the co-host from the Locked On Dodgers podcast. He's on live in Live in Color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, Second City Sports. Sid Lakina hang out here with you. We talk about the Ohtani signing as we talk about Ohtani's impact on the field. Let's talk about his impact off the field. Of course, the Los Angeles Dodgers are not just a national brand, but a worldwide brand. And of course, Ohtani's going to get perhaps more money in advertising dollars. I know some folks in baseball wanted him to play on the East Coast. That's why Toronto was in play. But how much do you think that the folks on the East Coast and here in the Central Time Zone will grab on to Ohtani Mania? Because most of the home games, as you know, Vince, local time, your time start at 7 o'clock. Of course, it's 9 o'clock here in the Central Time Zone, 10 o'clock in the East. Do you think that the time difference will be a difference maker? Do you think it will matter at all going forward with Ohtani now joining the Dodgers?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to lose a good amount of audience on the East Coast in terms of watching live, at 10 p.m., unless you really want to stay up or you have a job where you're going later, you're probably going to sleep before the game ends. I do think being on the Dodgers at least will kind of ramp that up a little bit compared to where he was before, just because, the Dodgers do have some fans still in New York from, maybe passed down from the Brooklyn days or people that moved around the country. And then, being in games that matter, that especially coming to August, September, fighting for a playoff spot or fighting for the number one seed or whatever they're fighting for at the time, I think that'll matter. And then I think the other part too is like here is where it came down to it, but like in Japan, it makes a little bit easier for them to watch games. The 3-hour difference between the East Coast and now, I think the difference is like noon start times here in LA compared to 9 a.m. start times if it was on the East Coast. So I think that's going to help out internationally. But yeah, here, I mean, realistically, who's watching live sports that often these days anyways? You're going to catch it. He's going to be, every time he does something, it's going to be on every, highlight-based sports media account. And I think that's going to be the big beneficiary.
Definitely, and especially with it being a big Asian population there, and especially in that part of Los Angeles, I think that to definitely help with the Ohtani sign. Now this projected lineup for the Dodgers. I mean, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, a couple of former MVPs, Max Muncy. Tell everybody that how will Shohei fit in that lineup? I mean, because you got a lot of versatility there.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you got Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts who finished 2 and 3 in the National League MVP last year. Now you have Shohei Ohtani, who was number 1 in the AL MVP. Those are your first 3 hitters. So, that's a gauntlet to get through. It's going to matter kind of behind them in terms of how the offense can perform overall. You got Will Smith, who's one of the better catchers, Max Muncy, who's, good for 30-plus homers every year. And then you got, some unknowns a little bit at shortstop. Gavin Lux coming off ACL. And then you got James Outman, who was a solid rookie last year. And I would imagine, Manuel Margot now, who they also got in that Glasnow trade, he'll fit in against left-handed pitching. You got Jason Hayward fitting in against right-handed pitching. They might go out and get one more bat. But yeah, it's a deep lineup, but still top-heavy. But it's, not top-heavy to the sense where, you're moving over too much to one side. I think it's hard to be better than MVP candidates, and that's what they have in the first three.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Mookie Betts. I know he's been a great outfielder for the majority of his career, especially in a Dodgers uniform. Now he's going to be moved over to second base full time. Talk to us about the impact he can have in the infield there, and who's going to round out that outfield defensively.
Yeah, so for him moving to second base, he came up as an infielder, and he talked about it last year, kind of going back to the infield. He was forced to go play outfield in Boston when he first came up because they had Dustin Pedroia at second base. And, he always talked about kind of wanting to come back into the infield. He feels like it's easier on him as a player. He did a podcast this year, and he kind of talked about it a few different times where that running back to the outfield, back and forth, 18 times a game, between every inning, he's like, it does wear on you over the course of a game. And, running out second base is a little bit easier. He played there pretty much exclusively the second half of last season, was, average to above average defensively. And I'm sure as he gets more comfortable, he'll pick up there. And it kind of gives the Dodgers room to find other bats that play outfield, because it's a lot easier to find, an outfielder that can hit than maybe a second baseman that can hit. And, Jason Hayward will take over in right field for the most part. You got James Outman in center. And then as of right now, you got Chris Taylor in left, and then Manuel Margot will fit in probably against lefties somewhere in there. And I think they probably get one more bat, whether it's an everyday outfielder or another guy that can hit against left-handed pitching. And that kind of rounds out the outfield. But I think with Hayward being so strong defensively, it allows you to move Mookie to second base. And, now you have the best second baseman in the league compared to one of the best right fielders in the league.
Yeah, you kind of answered my question about Jason Hayward because, of course, being in the Cubs, wasn't very productive the last couple of years he was here. Now he's with the Dodgers. He's actually pretty productive last year, and now with Ohtani now in the lineup, that kind of takes the pressure off him. So how big of a pickup was that Hayward signing last year?
Yeah, I mean, last year he signed a minor league deal initially, and wasn't guaranteed to be on the opening day roster, on the major league roster. He ended up making it. So he had already worked on his swing before that, working on revamping it, kind of getting quicker to the ball. And the Dodgers, I'm sure, helped that, but he was already making those moves toward it, and he did great for the Dodgers. Like I said, he was good enough for them to feel comfortable moving Mookie to the infield and giving Hayward a majority of the bats in the outfield. He had one of his highest OPSs of his career overall, and they're putting him in a position to succeed. He's not an everyday player. He played against, right-handed pitching, and he did very well. And like I said, he adds the element defensively to where you're not losing too much. Obviously, Mookie was a Gold Glove right fielder, but he didn't lose too much in defensively, and offensively he held his own weight. So if he can keep that up, he's getting older and Father Time's undefeated. But if you see Jason Hayward in person, he's in shape to say the least. So I don't think time will slow down too much for him, and then he can be productive one more year at least.
We hand down a home stretch with our guy, Vincent Sampiro. He's the co-host of the Locked On Dodgers podcast. He's hanging out here with us on the Friday edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. Vince, let's talk about your manager, Dave Roberts. I listen to both sports radio stations in Los Angeles from time to time. And there are some fans that we know there's no quote-unquote perfect manager, but there are some fans that just can't not stand Dave Roberts. I know the Dodgers have won World Series under their belt. That was in the COVID year in 2020. But talk to us about Dave Roberts. What makes him a polarizing figure, and why does he, from your view, get some fans get quote unquote annoyed by him? Because let me tell you something right now. I'm a White Sox fan. We just went through a 100-loss season. We have a new manager that should have been hired in the first place. And I just want to say to some of these Dodgers fans, I know the expectations is for you guys to win the World Series every year. You got the roster to do it, but I'm trying to find out for my team on the South Side of Chicago with the White Sox. You guys have first world problems. Explain to us about what some of you Dodgers fans, some of the Dodgers fans, with this love-hate relationship with Dave Roberts. Call me crazy, I just don't get it.
No, it's definitely coming from a place of being spoiled, making the playoffs. Like I said, the last 11 years, 10 of those winning the division. A few World Series appearances, the one win, and it's one of those things where I think now he's getting punished for mistakes he's made in the past. I would say for sure in years past, 2019, against the Nationals in that first round, leaving Clayton Kershaw in after bringing him in as a reliever, probably not the best move. He's made other decisions here and there that weren't necessarily the moves I would have made. But I do think the last couple of years, it hasn't been a matter of him. It's just been a matter of the team kind of breaking down, guys not hitting, or people that succeeded all year in one position, maybe a reliever, not coming through when it mattered most in October. And I think he's being punished for that a little bit. And, it's one of those things where when you make the playoffs every year, but you don't win the World Series, you're going to feel naturally some type of way. And I think that's what Roberts gets. But I think what the people don't necessarily understand that get mad at Roberts is the Dodgers probably don't get to a lot of those places if he isn't the manager he is throughout the year. We've seen big money teams with egos not necessarily work out. The Padres last year, who knows if that was the case, maybe not having the best manager there or whatever it was, but we've seen it happen. Dave Roberts manages people. You never hear people complaining, Dodger players complaining about playing time, even though some of them could probably be starters otherwise, but they might platoon here. You never hear starters complain too much about coming out of games maybe a little bit earlier than they want. I think he's a manager of people. His in-game decisions have, left some to be desired. But I do think the last 2 years, it hasn't necessarily been his fault. It's kind of been the team not coming through when needed.
You see with all these signings, of course, or with the Ohtani signing, of course, the Glass now signing, do you feel like maybe the Dodgers are kind of on a mission to prove that World Series they won a couple years ago during the COVID year was not a fluke? And I think that's probably I'm seeing that's probably why they're doing all these signings and being aggressive and with all these these big signings.
I think it's definitely in the back of their mind. I believe that they all feel like the 2020 World Series was legitimate. That was the first year where, you had to win 13 games instead of 11. So there was different elements to it. But, the last 2 years have really left a sour taste. Now losing to division rivals in the first round after winning, 100-plus games in the regular season. And I think right now what the main thing is, you have Mookie Betts signed for about 8 more years. You have Freddie Freeman for 4 more years. Those guys are only going to get older. So you basically have a 3 to 4 year window where those guys are still going to be MVP candidates. So you might as well go all in on it now. And now you got Ohtani added to the mix. He defers that money. Now you can bring in other people. I think it's definitely a part of that in terms of putting yourself in the best position to be able to win. And, it's one of those things where we've seen in baseball, it's not always going to work out. There's been a lot of different winners in the last 20 years. Only the Giants are the only team that really kind of won multiple championships in a few years span. So you got to kind of build out what you believe is going to help you win, and that's what they're doing. But I definitely think it's all part of, Ohtani talked about it yesterday in his press conference, how when he talked to the Dodgers and they said, we've been in the playoffs last 10 years, all this accolades and everything else, but we consider it a failure because it's only led to one championship. And he said that's kind of what prompted him to like the Dodgers, is that they considered that a failure, even though they're still a well-run organization.
Okay. Last question from me, Vince, and listening to the radio flagship station of the Dodgers. This particular radio host said, and I'm paraphrasing here a bit, but with the Ohtani signing, that this team will become "quote unquote" hated, and more out of not like the Houston Astros, and that's a whole nother level, as you will know from the 2017 World Series. We don't have to bring up any bad memories there, but many fans will become jealous of the Dodgers because their team didn't sign Ohtani. We know already that the Dodgers are one of the biggest draws on the road. How much pressure will that be with the Dodgers now, with Ohtani being signed there, as far as them traveling playing on the road?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a World Series or bust kind of mentality in LA the last, ever since Andrew Friedman came in. But now, you're taking that to a different extent with, the 700 mils obviously jarring right away. And then with the fact that the deferrals and it, kind of helps them with luxury tax, the fake salary cap in MLB and all that, they're definitely going to get they're going to kind of become what the Yankees were in the late 90s, early 2000s, where you didn't like them, not for a particular reason other than they were really good. They spent a lot of money and they kept winning. And, that's kind of part of it. I don't think, people might have individual vendettas against players, but it's one of those where, like, I don't think there's any player you will not going to like for a certain reason. Like, it's hard to not like Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, even Ohtani. Like, they don't do anything to make you not like them. But the fact that they're all on one team, the fact that maybe your team, doesn't spend money or didn't get Ohtani or whatever the case is, they're definitely going to have that pressure and, the target on their back. And it's going to be different than what it's been before. The Dodgers have, always been a bigger team, good draw on the road, but now it's one of those where they're taking that step into, what the Yankees were, the evil empire. Now it's kind of like the Dodgers have that target.
All right, Vincent, thank you so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun. Where people can find you and all your great content on Lockdown Dodgers.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm Vincent Sampiro, at Vincent Sampiro on Twitter, and then at Locked On Dodgers on Twitter and Instagram. And you can find us on wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube every Monday through Friday.
All right, Vince, thank you very much for joining us today and taking time on your busy schedule to join us. Great job co-hosting that Locked On Dodgers podcast. Much continued success. Let's do this again when the baseball season starts, because the Dodgers will be one of the most talked about teams around MLB, and we want to follow you and your team along those steps.
Definitely appreciate it, and I'm always around for you guys.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you for joining us.
Happy holidays.
Have a great one.
You too.
All right.
All right, that was Vincent Sampiro from Lockdown Dodgers. We got our girl Christy Manika from KXRB on deck. So, of course, you can check out Vincent's stuff on, like I said, wherever you get your podcast on Locked On family of various shows. So, yeah, it's all right there for you. We got our girl Christy Manika from KXRB on deck coming up next. We'll do our Week 15 picks, and the Chargers say bye-bye to Brandon Staley. And after that performance, you would have too. And a whole lot more. We'll talk more about that with Christine coming up next. Second Season Sports on Sports of Chicago. Our girl KXRB's Christine Manika coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. We're live in the 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, at Keena again, the IG.
This is our last break of the show for today and for the week. So you have any last minute questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV.
All right, Sid, we got our girl here waiting in the wings. We don't want to waste any more time. Of course, she's our girl, your girl for KXRB, Miss Christine Manika. What's up, Christine?
Hi, guys. How are you?
We're doing good. We're doing much better than Brandon Staley. We will talk about that real quick before we do our picks. Of course, he got the boot, as our late friend Lamont Scott would say. He is on his way to getting his pink slip and his link card. Well, after giving up 63 points last night, I think you'd be gone too. So a pretty strong statement from Dean Spanos, and I kind of feel like he's part of the problem too. Just saying, but they're cleaning house over there. Gibbs Smith is the interim head coach, and also too JoJo Wooden is the interim GM. So your thoughts, guys?
Honestly, I don't think last night was entirely Coach Brandon's fault, just because you got Justin Herbert, who's out for the rest of the season with a broken hand for the most part, and you have your offensive line with a bunch of injuries as well. So I really don't think the loss was all of his doing. You have a lot of injuries, but it is a long time coming. We all knew that it was going to happen at some point, whether it was during the Bears game for Sunday Night Football or that Monday night game. It was going to happen, but I don't think I know I didn't expect it to happen after last night's game, but it was going to happen in my mind, at least by the end of the season.
I'm with Christine on this one. Last night was not Brandon Staley's fault, but the underachievement and the injuries and the other things that happened, which led up to what happened last night, was his fault. Of course, he's going to be on talking about Staley. He's going to be remembered for blowing the second biggest lead in playoff history, losing to the Jaguars in Jacksonville in the playoffs last year. How ironic, Lakina, 2 years ago in Las Vegas, the last game of the regular season, they could have ended that game at a time. Both them and Oakland. Both them and the Las Vegas Raiders would have made the playoffs. Pittsburgh would have been out. But no, you decided to do something stupid, and you cost yourself a playoff berth. Last night, you gave up 63 points in the same place that you did your gap 2 years ago in the regular season finale. You get your butt fired. But, well, we'll see what they do in this all season. They have a lot of work to do. They gave Justin Herbert that money before the start of the season. There's some possible salary cap issues there, so you got to find a new management, and you got to find a way to retool that roster, because some of those veterans, especially on the defensive side, they're getting older now. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, a lot of those guys. No, go ahead, Chrissy. I'm sorry.
I said Bill Belichick. That's a rumor going around.
Yeah, I saw that rumor. Perhaps maybe they trade Herbert to New England. I mean,
no, not even that. It's Belichick going to the Chargers.
Oh, to the Chargers. Oh, yeah, I saw that too. Yeah. Nice weather. Look, that might be something to look out for. For me. But like you guys said, they have all that dead money, so a lot of those guys could be gone, or unless they do a lot of restructuring. So who knows? Maybe that might be something to look into. So who knows? Now let's go to our week 15 picks here. We all had 7.
Everybody lost.
Yeah, we
right.
we were not very good this week. But Christine, if you had gone to the Bills with me, you could have gained the game on Sid. So hey, look, we're all Yeah. I mean, no real changes in among overall the scoring, but hopefully we can do better this week. Of course, no more buys. Also, too, we got 3 Saturday games tomorrow. So adjust your fantasy teams accordingly here. Real quick for your playoff chase. let's start here. All these games will be on the NFL Network, by the way. Start this noon slate. You got the Vikings and the Bengals. Sid, you start this one for us.
I'm jumping on that Cincinnati bandwagon. Minnesota, after that ugly 3-0 win at Vegas last week, they made the change at quarterback starring Mullins. Who the hell is that guy? Anywho, Cincinnati, they impressed me last week. They do need Joe Burrow. Obviously, he's not coming back this year, but they run the ball better with Joe Mixon and rookie running back Chase Brown from the University of Illinois. He's very impressive. We talked about him last week, Lakina. And the Vikings, you're talking about a train that's coming off his rails. It's the Minnesota Vikings. So I'm going Cincinnati here. Cincinnati is favored by 3 at home.
I'm going to go with Cincinnati too. And just for the games in general this week, the line for all these games are ridiculously close. I mean, picking these games in general for this whole week is just insane. It can go either way. I could see the Vikings getting heated and winning this game against the Bengals just because they are a little beat up. But I think the Vikings, they are a little bit more beat up at the moment going on their fourth quarterback. I honestly feel bad for Josh Dobbs because he did not have a bad first half of the game last week. And they just decided to pull him for whatever reason because he wasn't performing to what they expected him to perform after his first couple of showings. And then you have Justin Jefferson, who made his big comeback last week. And all of a sudden, he had a very scary chest injury, and he was even questionable to go back into the game and even come in for this game. Then you have Browning for the Bengals, their backup quarterback. He got injured at one point, and then he related it to dehydration, saying, maybe I just got to drink more water or something like that. I don't know. But honestly, I could see this game going either way, but I am picking the Bengals for this one. I think more so just because it is a home field advantage, and those Bengal fans do get a little bit wild at times. And also, I think Browning, he's a pretty gosh darn good quarterback. And I like what I see out of him so far. And I know the Minnesota fans, they are not happy out here. And let me tell you, I'm full of Vikings fans, and they aren't happy.
No, they're not. And I think the Bengals, I think the Bengals will probably win this game, but I think it'll be a little bit closer, like you said, Christine. I mean, the lines these games are just big virtual toss-ups. So but then again, I could see Minnesota pull off the ups, which we consider the upset. Nick Mullins, especially with Justin Jefferson being back, that could definitely help the offense in that cause. So we'll see what happens there. Now, the second game with that third of the triple header on the NFL Network tomorrow, Saturday, you got the Steelers and the Colts. Could be an elimination game in the playoff picture. Christine, you start this one.
I think the Colts have been getting very lucky within the last couple of games that they've had. And the Steelers, they are pretty much down there in their luck. This could be a good game for them to get back and to get right. So I'm going to go with the Steelers here for this one.
I'm going with the Colts here. They had an ugly loss at Cincinnati last week, of course. The Pittsburgh Steelers lost at home to the Patriots last week, and Mitch Trubisky, I wish that young man success, but he's behind the 8 ball, and I think the snowball downward is going to continue for Mike Tomlin crew. So I'm going with the Colts. The Colts are at a 1.5 favorite at home, so this basically had to pick them.
Yeah, definitely a toss-up game. Yeah,
I told you these games are ridiculously impossible this week.
Right. I mean, look, I'm picking the Colts on this one. I think just because I think they're at home, and I think they want to kind of do a bounce back from that from that game they against the Bengals. They kind of left a lot of points on the board. So I think they'll definitely have a bounce back. Ninth game of the Saturday of the triple header here. So you start this one. We got the Broncos and the Lions, both coming hoping to bounce back from various tough losses.
Well, the Broncos beat the Chargers last week.
The Chargers.
So they look good there. Well, of course, the Lions got embarrassed by their own will doing against the Bears in Chicago last week on the lakefront. But the Lions are mad, and they're at home. So I think they're going to get refocused. The NFC North division titles within their grasp. They're going to grab it. They're going to play much better. Denver's going to give them a battle, but I got Lions coming out of here. Well, at least a 7-point victory. The Lions are favored by 4.5.
I'm going with the Broncos for this one.
That's because of your soon-to-be husband.
No. I
Okay.
think the Lions are kind of facing a little bit of a downturn at the moment, and if the team want to strike while the iron is hot, this is the time to do it. And Russell Wilson just became a dad again this week, so he's feeling pretty good about himself, and I think he wants to get a first win for his new daughter in the world. So I'm gonna go with the Broncos.
You never want to face Lions when they're mad, so I think this Lions squad is going to be very mad. Although the game will definitely be close, but I think the Lions will pull away late because they definitely want to put some distance between themselves and the Vikings and the Packers and you probably see the Bears too in the NFC North. Now to the Sunday games, if you will, you got the Falcons and the Panthers. I'll start this one. I'll keep it short and sweet. I'll say the Falcons. I know they're trying to bounce back from that tough loss to the Bucks. The Panthers, I don't know what the hell's going on down there in Charlotte. I don't think anybody does. So, short and sweet, I'm picking the Falcons.
This was one of the easier ones to pick this week. Falcons.
Atlanta for me. Atlanta's favored by 3 on the road.
Oof, only 3, good Lord.
Wow.
Vegas knows something, I guess, that we don't. Speaking of the Bucks, should be a good one here. The Battle of the Bays. You got Tampa Bay and Green Bay. So you start this one.
Too bad this game will not be airing here in Chicago because CBS has that regional coverage, but it'll be airing live via this computer screen. I'll tell you that in NFL Red Zone. But with that being said, Christine's former fantasy quarterback, QB Baker Mayfield, he has a tough task ahead of him going to Lambeau Field, where the Packers actually done pretty well at home this year. I know the Packers lost a tough one at New York last week thanks to Tommy DeVito, former Illini quarterback. Christine's shaking her face right now. But I think the Packers will get back on track. The Buccaneers defense has faltered the last few weeks. I think Jordan Love gets a bounce back game. I think the Packers will win. Even I'm cheering hard as hell for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I think the Packers are a better team. They're going to win, and the Packers are favored by 3.5.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Packers for this one too. They look a whole lot better than what they did to start off the season, including Jordan Love. I think Watson, he looks even way better than what he did last year too. Just a little bit more physical and just quicker on the field, in my opinion. The Bucks, they were hot, and now they're just kind of, I think they're teeter-tottering at this point. But who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if they won either. Baker's kind of in a good mood too because now he's going to be a new dad. That was announced last week, I saw. So, because it's a home game for the Packers, I'm going with them.
Yeah, same thing. That is where I'm picking the Packers too. I think that they want to get that bad taste losing to the Giants on Monday night out of their mouth, and they're actually a much better team at home. They are on the road, so I think this will definitely the Lambeau home cooking is just what they need there. The Jets and the Dolphins. Christy, you start this one for us.
I don't know how the heck you can lose a game in 3 minutes, but the Dolphins did it. The Dolphins somehow did it. And I think everyone was just as shocked as we were that Zach Wilson was one of the people that got the player of the week too. Anything could happen. Last week was just another one of those weeks. But I think this is a good game that the Dolphins can say, all right, we don't know what the heck happened either. Let's get this right. Let's get back to what we're normally seeing on the field. It was a little bit scary when Tyreek Hill went down with an ankle injury, but a couple of cortisone shots later, he's back out on the field. Tough it out and keep running. And I think that's what they're going to do with the Jets. They're just going to fly over their heads with this game, I think.
I have Miami for this one. I know Tyreek Hill is questionable with an ankle injury. Hopefully he rests up so he can be at his best. But Raheem Mostert and Devin A-Chain, as I call him on this show, there will be the running backs for the Dolphins. They'll be the key factors on offense here. The Jets have a good defense, but I don't think Zach Wilson can repeat what he did last week against the Houston Texans. So I'm going with Miami here. The Dolphins are favored by 9.5 points at home.
Short and sweet, I'm picking the Dolphins. I think they're not going to be in a very good mood after losing that one against the Titans.
We said last week, and the Dolphins played down to that competition. This would happen, as Christine said. Look what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think they're going to learn their lesson, and I think they're going to have a bounce back when it gets to Jets this week. Now, speaking of the other team that pulled off the big upset, well, I would say minor upset, I guess, on Monday night, you got the Giants and the Saints. I'll start this one. I know the Tommy DeVito mania has swept all of New York, upstate New York, and also down to Manhattan, all the way to Jersey. The Saints, I mean, you don't know what Saints team you're going to get. So this could be another one, like Christy said, it's another one of those pick'ems. I think because they're at home, I'll pick the Saints. That's the only reason why I'm picking them. I don't know why, but that's the only reason why I'm picking them, because they're at home.
That's what I kind of went with too, Lakina. I put questionable with mine and a question mark next to the Saints just because they are at home and you don't know what you're going to get out of them. But I am loving this whole Tommy DeVito thing. I feel bad for him once Daniel Jones comes back. He's kind of in the back of the line to kind of see his story play out.
Yeah, I'm keeping it short and sweet. New Orleans, even though they barely beat a bad Carolina team last week. If they don't get the Giants here, they don't deserve to go to the playoffs. The Saints are favored by 5.5 at home.
I'm sure Cam Jordan's going to want to take a little a stab at Mr. DeVito. I'm just saying. I think he's going to
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to be gunning for him, I'm sure. So, yeah, that might be – you might be running, Tommy. I'm just saying. Shout out to our buddy Sampiro Diaz from CBS Sports. He'll be calling this game, which Sunday seems to be a very intriguing one here in the AFC South. You got the Texans and the Titans. Sid, you start this one for us.
Texans and Titans. I don't see it. Oh, I see it on my schedule here. Tennessee's favored by 4. I know CJ Stroud is questionable as of this live broadcast with the concussion. My assumption is he'll probably be out of concussion protocol by the time kickoff approaches on Sunday. But I just got this crazy feeling again that the Titans somehow they're going to do it again. They're going to pull out another one out of their hat. In recent years past, you expect them to get on a roll. They turn around and drop, fumble the bag and drop one down their leg. But I'm stepping out. I'm going with the Titans here, and they are favored by 4.
Yeah, I did not know that Stroud was in concussion protocol because I was going to say after last week against the Jets, he probably wants a little bit of revenge because that was, in my opinion, uncharacteristic for them to be so down and out like that when he's been having such an explosive rookie season and so impressive too. So that just changed my pick. I'm going with the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, Davis Mills, I mean, look, he's had some good games, but again, this is another one of those toss-up games, and I think I'll pick the Titans too. I mean, like I said, I think they're riding that wave. Of course, the sad, tragic death of Frank White. I think may have had something to do with it. I think they play a little bit inspired. I remember Will Levis said after the game. I think one of Frank White's stars. They talked to the team after the game. This is win this for their dad and such. So I think that probably fed off that and I think they're going to widen the way. I think the Texans have been struggling lately. I mean, Tank Dell, that injury is going to come back to bite them in the butt. So, yeah, I think the Titans might win this one, and it'll be a close one. All right, Chiefs and Patriots. Patriots got a big win last week, and they've had 10 days off, and the Chiefs are kind of on a start sticking down a little bit. They can't, the Patriots, the Chiefs can't lose to the Patriots, can they? Can they? So I'll pick the Chiefs, but I say that in protest because I just don't know what's going to happen, especially since Isaiah Pacheco is now out too. So that could be something to look out for as well.
I'm going to hesitantly pick the Chiefs because crazier things have happened with them this year, and I would not be surprised if somehow the Patriots beat the Chiefs.
There'll be a great send-away present for Bill Belichick, or Bill Belichick
Right.
to come on this show if he gets released at the end of the year. But remember, this game was originally supposed to be on Sunday Night Football, but they got the boot out, and so it's a noon game on CBS. So I'm keeping it short and sweet. Kansas City, and Kansas City's favored by 8.5.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Well,
All right,
8 now. It's 8.
8 now.
Sorry,
Okay. Yeah. The line moved.
But
Okay.
don't be surprised if the line goes down a little bit less on Sunday morning.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose, but I don't think the Patriots are. I just don't see that happening. But you never know. First of the 3 o'clock games, you got the 49ers and the Cardinals in the NFC West. I'll say it short and sweet. I mean, look, they're in the driver's seat now. Top the 49ers are for not only the division, but also for the number 1 seed in the NFC. They've already clinched the playoff spot. They're the first team to have done so. Yeah, short and sweet, the 49ers. They shouldn't have no trouble with the Cardinals.
Yeah, the 49ers. I've said this all season and even into towards the end of last season. They are just the dream team of football. They are just dominating not just the NFC, but the whole league in general. Besides Dallas, I can't think of another team that they can't dominate really. So they're rock stars. So I'm going to stick with the 49ers.
Short and sweet, San Francisco. I need Deebo Samuel to bring home the fantasy football championship in my league. So he's been putting up great numbers the last few weeks. I need him to do it one more time, but that's besides the point. But San Francisco is to play here, and they are favored by 12 points on the road.
Yeah, and I believe since CBS has regional cover, I think this is going to be the one of these games is going to be on CBS here in Chicago.
That game is going to be on here in Chicago.
Yeah. Okay, I figured that. So might be a quick one there.
Yeah.
But the other CBS regional game at 3:05, you got the Commanders and the Rams. So you start this one for us.
The Washington Commanders you can play the tap song because they're going down slowly. The Rams, on the flip side, they lost in overtime and walk-off special teams TD fashion to the Baltimore Ravens. But they're back home. They should be able to dominate both offensively and defensively. Matthew Stafford, I think, is going to have a good game. So I'm going with the Rams here at SoFi, and they are favored. I'm talking about the Rams by 6.5.
Okay.
I'm going with the Rams, too. They've just been winning a lot more lately than what the Commanders have. So I have a little bit more confidence in what they're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, one of the games of the week. All right, this is only Fox game at 3:25, but all the
it's a doubleheader game.
Yeah, and then we'll remember this will be the whole nation will have this game. Like you said, it is a doubleheader, but yeah, all the nation will have this game on Fox. You got the Cowboys and the Bills. The Bills coming off that great win against the Chiefs. The Cowboys they've dominated their last couple of games. Christine, you start this one for us.
It's got to be the Cowboys here. I mean, we all know how the Bills season has been going. They've had some really great and surprising wins, but then when they lose, it's been really bad. A lot of turnovers. Stephon Diggs hasn't really even been playing that great this season. He's had some injuries, and then you have Josh Allen, who turns over the ball a lot. So that's not changing anytime soon. You got Dak Prescott, who's looking probably the best that he's ever looked in a long time. CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons on the defense, even when he was battling the flu or whatever it was last week, he was still killing it defensively. So I expect nothing less. I think the Cowboys are going to take this win. It will be a good game for sure, but they should take the win here.
I'm going with Buffalo here. They got a big win in Kansas City last week. Josh Allen is starting to play well. You mentioned Stephon Diggs, Christine. He didn't have a great game last week, but they're at home. The Dallas Cowboys are going into the toughest part of their schedule with back-to-back road games this week at Buffalo, next week at Miami. I think Buffalo's on a roll right now. James Cook, their running back, starting to get a little bit more touches. Like I said, Lakina, Josh Allen should not be your leader in rushing yards. It looks like head coach Sean McDermott of the Buffalo Bills started to get it through his thick skull. So keep feeding James Cook that ball and keep Josh Allen upright. And it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a good game. I'm expecting Buffalo to win. And they are favored. The line has jumped up almost a full point for the last 24 hours as of this live broadcast. The Bills are now favored by 2.5 points at home.
Yeah, I think Vegas knows something that we don't. Yeah, I pick Buffalo too. I mean, they've been on a roll lately, like you mentioned, Sid, and I kind of feel like I know Micah Hyde's going to be out, it looks like, so there might be a little bit of a deterrent on that secondary, but I think, look, their front seven's been playing very well. Josh Allen, as long as he doesn't throw any interceptions, he's in good shape, and James Cook, I mean, he might be able to. The one thing that the Cowboys aren't very good at is that run defense, and if they let Cook run the ball, I'm talking about the Bills, leave Dak and them off the field, they might be able to pull off another big upset here. So it should be a good one on Fox. It's the only game they got. So yeah, it better be a good one. Sunday night you got the Ravens and the Jags. I mean the Ravens in the driver's seat in the AFC for the number 1 seed. Jags have lost a couple in a row. Sid, you start this one.
I want to pick Jacksonville here. I really do because they're at home, but Baltimore is too good. Of course, Jacksonville had a chance to stay up there with Baltimore in that race for the number 1 seed, but they got behind early against Cleveland, tried to come back, but they fell short. Trevor Lawrence didn't look that great. I know he had a couple touchdown passes, but he threw 3 picks, which was not good, which set that team back. But I want to see them run the ball way more with Travis Etienne, and they haven't done that in these last few weeks. On the flip side for Baltimore, Lamar Jackson is in the MVP conversation, in my opinion, along with Dak Prescott and Tyreek Hill. And I know they lost their tight end Mike Andrews, but Blake Lively, I think, is going to be a big factor here, which he's the new tight end that's stepping in Andrews' place. So I think it's going to be a tough physical game, but I think Baltimore's going to come out here with a close victory. And Baltimore is favored by 3.5 points on the road.
I'm stepping out and I'm picking Jacksonville. I think this could be a game where they could come back with a victory after some tough losses. The Ravens, when you catch them at a tough moment, they do crumble under pressure. We've seen that plenty of times this year with them, that when they've been really good and they've been climbing at the top, and then they've had injury setbacks and just bad interceptions and just turnovers in general. And turnovers, they do make the game in the end. We've seen that time and time again. And I think because they're at home, and I think they could actually pull it off at the right time. Jacksonville.
I could probably see that happening. I could probably see Jacksonville perhaps maybe pull off the mild upset, I guess. But it'll be a good game. It's not going to be a blowout, but I think Baltimore, they know they've got a shot to perhaps put a little bit of distance between themselves and Jacksonville and Kansas City. So yeah, I think the Ravens will win this game. They've been playing very well. They know the defense knows they got to play a little bit better. They may try to get not 100% Trevor Lawrence in that knee. So yeah, I really think he'll probably that'll probably be the thing here, and I think the Ravens will get him for that. Monday night, this will be on ABC, ESPN, Manicast. So there will be a Manicast this week. You got the Eagles and the Seahawks, 2 NFC rivals, shelling out. Seahawks coming off that tough loss to the 49ers. The Eagles, they've had a couple of tough losses in a row. Geno Smith, is 100%. I think a lot of their core is 100% either. So yeah, I'm picking the Eagles. I think the Eagles, this could be a nice bounce back game for them.
I think so too. I'm picking the Eagles for this one. The Seahawks, they haven't looked their best this year. Geno Smith, again, he had a great season last year, and now he's kind of just coasting, flying. It's the battle of the birds. He's flying a little bit too close downward, and this could be a great game for the Eagles to get back on track.
I'm going with the Colin Cowherd rule here. If you played on national television the week before and got embarrassed, you usually bounce back the next week. I was tempted to pick Seattle, but I think Philadelphia, they're tired of the losing, and they don't want to see their seeding go down as far as the NFC playoffs are concerned, go down even further. So I'm picking Philadelphia to have a bounce back game. I think it's going to be much closer than what people think. Philadelphia's favored by 3 on the road.
Yeah, it may come down to the last second field goal as well, probably from Jake Elliott. All right, last but not least, you got the Bears and the Browns on Fox. DJ Moore was a participant. It is questionable with ankle injury that he suffered last week against Detroit. Jaquan Brisker, he tweaked his groin in practice earlier this week. He was limited today, so he is questionable. I think, like I said, not having Yannick Ngakoue, I don't think people are talking about that as much as they should. I mean, he and Montez would have been a very solid little tandem there on that outside. On the outside of that D line, so that might be a factor there. Like I said, this is probably gonna be the toughest offense they're gonna be facing the rest of the season. Talk about the Bears defense. You're going to be facing Joe Flacco, who, look, this isn't the first rodeo. I know he hasn't played in a couple years, but this isn't the first rodeo. He knows what to do. He's seen every defense known to man. You're facing a Jim Schwartz defense as well. It's going to be close. Okay, I'll say this. I've been saying this the last 2 weeks. The Browns will win, but the Bears will cover. I'm leaving it there.
I'm calling this game the battle of the defenses, just because from the start of the season to where the Bears are right now, that addition of Montez Sweat has really changed the whole culture of that defensive line. It just looks, it's crazy the difference just a couple of months can make with just an addition of one guy. And I think the defense looks great. Joe Flacco, I said this when Minnesota was looking for a new quarterback after Kirk Cousins with his Achilles went down. I said that Joe Flacco probably should have been the guy for the Vikings to pick up. And now seeing his start with the Browns last week, I stand by that. And like what you said, Lakina, this is not his first rodeo. He had a lot of success with Baltimore, with the Ravens. And I think he could actually bring this team at least a little bit of hope, and maybe even in the hunt for a wild card spot. But this is going to be very close. I was kind of laughing at myself last week, and I said, the Bears can't even tank properly. Like, they're not supposed to win, because then we have the opportunity to get in the playoffs, and that just messes up the draft. And I'm off my soapbox now. But yeah, that was my whole thought process of it. But I am picking the Browns. It's a home field advantage for them. The defense, it's going to be a battle, and it's going to be a close one.
As we said at the top of the show, Lakina, I think Justin Fields, from his very first start in Cleveland 2 years ago, where now ex-head coach Matt Nagy set him up to fail, it's going to be very different this time. But as you said, Christine, it's going to come down to the defenses, and it's going to come down to who runs the ball the best. If the Bears defense gets 2 or more turnovers, I think they'll win. But the Bears got to prove it to me that they can beat a tough team on the road. And for this Bears offensive line, this is going to be their toughest test so far this year. I wanted to go with the Bears. They do have a chance in this one, but I'm stepping out and going on logic. I'm going with Cleveland here. Cleveland's favored by 3 points at home.
All right, and who's calling the game for Fox?
Kevin Kugler, Mark Sanchez, and Chicago's very own Laura Oakman.
Going to be a lot of energy from Sanchez. So, expect a lot. You're getting a lot of energy from him, yeah. So, he's going to be praising Justin Fields a lot. And but, yeah, that is your schedule for NFL Week 15. Oh my God, the season's almost over already, folks. So
I know.
Does it cease too quick? I just second see sports on Sports of Chicago. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown, our girl at KXRB's Christine Manika with us for these last few minutes. If you guys saw this video, I guess it came out with that Tom Brady posted a few days ago. Remember, for people who don't remember, he was originally drafted by the Expos in his senior year of high school. And of course, he went to Michigan, and the rest is history. Blah blah blah. They actually did a video with his rookie card now available. His rookie card from Montreal, and the cool thing about it is that he got Larry Walker, Pedro Martinez, and Vlad Aguero Sr. on there. That was actually really cool.
All Hall of Famers.
Yeah. Yep, and I don't know if that could have prevented. This could have prevented. I think they would have been a much better team. I think they probably could have won maybe a couple of pennants. Maybe I don't know about 7, but a nice little gem that Eli Manning did, with the Giants pennant chases. But that was a really funny commercial. So if you guys haven't seen, make sure you guys check that out. I'm sure it's on YouTube. Just go on the TV's social media page. But it was actually pretty funny.
It's on his Instagram page. It's great.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
All right, real quick, Christine. I know we were up against it, but what were your thoughts about Shohei Ohtani signing with the LA Dodgers? And is your soon-to-be husband okay? How much did you have to console him?
Obviously, he's upset. And I'm honestly surprised. In the beginning of this whole process, his agent went out and said, if anyone comes out to the media and talks about the conversations, then they're automatically out of the running. And what did he do? He went with the team that blabbed their mouth to the entire world about conversations. So that's kind of the irony of it. Big contract, and the way that they're kind of deviating it out, it's actually kind of smart. One, if I did a survey of the most bankrupt athletes and the ones that lost the most money after their careers, I would say baseball players would be at the top of that list when it comes to that category.
Yeah, NBA players too.
Yeah. So this keeps him responsible with that amount of money. This keeps the taxes in check for sure when it comes to California. Or if he decides to move somewhere else outside of California, it gives his agent probably a nice little payday out of that as well. And even though he's only getting $2 million a year, he'll be getting a ton of endorsements out of it too, like throughout the year. So it's not like, oh my God, he's only getting $2 million. No, he's going to be getting a lot of money outside of the contract from the Dodgers. So it's that's a big deal. And I think we were talking about this too this week. I think after this contract, there could be a salary cap for baseball because that's a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of money.
Well, and what also do the Dodgers could still spend? Remember, they get that money from their TV deal that the Dodgers have, and also their streaming rights as well. So that's the reason why they were able to spend, and they were able to divvy up the money the way that they did with this contract. So I don't know if they'll put a hard cap at some point like some of the other sports, but this might be one of those things where you're kind of like, yeah, you know what? Hey, you know what? They got the money, so sure, why not?
Yeah.
All right, Christine, 30 seconds or less. The Bulls lost 2 tough games earlier this week. They beat the Miami Heat last night. What do you think about their play without Zach LaVine, who's going to be out a few more weeks with that foot injury?
Trade him. I mean, he's literally not doing anything for the team. He's been on the court for 2 games, injured for the next 6 weeks. You're wasting your money at this point. If you're talking about the trade deadline and what to do going forward with the team, if you want to find out which player is expendable at this point, it's him. And I hate to say it like that, but it is.
All right, on that note, you follow Makina McGee. On that note, you follow Makina McGee on the Twitter, X, Makina Skorgi, and the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Christine, where can the lovely people follow you on social media?
They can follow me at @CManika_KXRB.
And you giving folks the bird, right?
Oh, yes.
Of course, you catch Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as young people would say, you can catch Second City Sports every Monday and every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And we'd like to thank Mr. Vincent Sampiro from Locked On Dodgers podcast. He hopped on with us to talk the Ohtani signing and what's going on with the LA Dodgers ball club. And, of course, our queen, Miss Christine Manika from KXRB in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, with her weekly NFL picks. Of course, you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please download that Sports Zone Chicago app. And please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. And follow War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And don't forget, you can catch Second City Sports along with the other live programming from Sports Zone Chicago. Catch Sports Zone Chicago live right now and on demand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, right now on Roku TV.
And you know we will provide. So
yes,
first, so have stay warm out there as you guys are finishing up your shopping. For Sid and Christine, I'm Lakeem. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Enjoy all the sports, and we'll see you guys next week.
Dub Bears. Damn. Holla.
Literally.